Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back in lecture number 30. And let's have a recall of our previous lecture, that was a revision of our chapter number 3. And let's discuss some important points जिनकी आपको all through your course बहुत ज़रूरत पड़ती रहेगी. And they are related to the future value and present value and usage of the table 1, 2, 3 and 4 at the end of the book. So let's have a look what did we study in our previous lecture. They are mostly related to the formulas of our present and future values depending upon the nature of the cash flow. So first of all, we studied the future value, that is based on the simple interest method, and also the future value with compound interest method. And future value of present, a single present amount, we used table 1. And the formula for that is future value is equal to present amount into 1 plus I, that is interest rate, whole power n, that is how many periods are there. It may be a 1 day period, it may be a 1 week period, it may be 1 month, 1 quarter, 6 months and 1 year. So depending upon the nature of the period, we can calculate the future amount. And also the present value of a single future amount, we will be using table 2, and its formula is present value is equal to future amount into 1 over 1 plus I whole power n. So power here it is missing here should be n. And future amount of an ordinary annuity, as you know, ordinary annuity is the cash flows which occur at the end of the period, and we have for this table 3, and the formula is annuity amount, that is the one of the presumption is that the amounts over the time period should be the same. So the annuity amount into 1 plus I power n minus 1 and whole divided by I. And for whole of this portion we will be using table 3, and we call it present value interest factor of an ordinary annuity for n number of periods with a given discount rate. And the present value of an ordinary annuity we will be using table 4. So here the annuity amount will be multiplied with the present value of an ordinary annuity, interest factor of an ordinary annuity with I interest rate or discount rate and n number of periods. So we will be using table 4 to calculate this part, and simply we will be multiplying it with the regular cash flows occurring at the end of each period. And now we come to the next topic, that is the revision of our chapter number 4. This is again very important chapter, and most of the calculations they are based on the same concept, that is we will be mostly calculating the present values and sometimes the future values. So let's have a look into this chapter, and at the end of this chapter we will be solving the problems given at the end of the book. So there are few concepts to be mentioned here. One is the liquidation value. It represents the amount of money that could be realized if an asset or group of assets is sold separately from its operating organization, and the amount each common stockholder would receive if the firm is closed is called the market value. That is selling off all assets and paying all liabilities and preferred stock, then the distribution of residual to the common stockholders. जब भी किसी फर्म को लिक्विडेट किया जाएगा तो उसके एसेट्स को सेल करने के बाद उसकी जो लाइबिलिटीज और प्रेफर्ड स्टॉक होल्डर्स जो हैं उनको पेमेंट करने के बाद if some balance is still left there, then that balance will be divided among the common stockholders. So that is the idea of liquidation value. And then going concern value, it is an additional value representing the worth of the business as a continuing operating business, because operating businesses are capable of generating cash flows to investors. जब हम गोइंग कंसर्न वैल्यू की बात करते हैं तो इसका मतलब यह है कि कोई भी बिजनेस जो कि ऑलरेडी रन कर रहा है, दैट इज बीइंग ऑपरेटेड ऑलरेडी, उसके साथ एक वैल्यू अटैच्ड होती है, बिकॉज आप नए सिरे से कोई बिजनेस लॉन्च करेंगे, उसको मार्केट में अपनी वर्थ इस्टेब्लिश करते हुए टाइम लगेगा. लेकिन इफ द बिजनेस इज ऑलरेडी बीइंग रन, the business is already in operation, so you can right away start earning income from that business. And then the third concept is book value. Book value of an asset is the accounting value of an asset, the cost of asset minus the accumulated depreciation. So when you have any asset, so over the period, different number of years, when you deduct the depreciation out of that asset, you will have the book value of that asset. And the fourth concept is market value. So it represents the market price at which an asset is traded. Normally, the stocks which are being traded in the stock market, the shares, the price of share in the stock market is called the market value. And the intrinsic value, it represents the price a security should have based on all factors bearing on valuation. For example, assets, earnings, future prospects, management. Intrinsic value of security is its economic value. So this value is that value which the investors would be willing to invest in. For example, if the market value of a security is 1200 rupees, and the intrinsic value, which is the perceived value of the investor, it is about 1200 rupees or more than that, then the investor would be willing to purchase that. But if the intrinsic value is quite less than that, for example, if it is 1000 but the market value is 1200, so in that case investor would not be willing to purchase that security. And then important bond terms. A bond is a long-term debt instrument issued by a corporation or government. As you know, bond is one of the financing sources which the corporations and governments they use, and it makes the capital structure of any firm, that is bond and stocks. When we talk of bond and stocks, then we say it is a leveraged firm. So for non-leveraged firm, there is no bond issues. A firm which is non-leveraged, there is no debt instrument or there is no debt portion in the capital structure there. And the maturity value, it is a face value. In fact, when at the time of maturity the bond will be redeemed, it will be redeemed on the face value. So that value is called the maturity value. And a coupon rate is the interest rate given on the bond. And the next term is coupon rate, which is the stated rate of interest, the annual interest payment divided by the bond's face value. So the interest is paid on the face value of the bond, and the discount rate, which is also known as capitalization rate, depends on the risk of bond and is composed of the risk-free rate plus the premium for the risk. And now there are different types of bond and how we determine their value, which is the intrinsic value. In fact, so we have different arrangements for different securities, for example bonds and stocks. So let's start with bonds. So there is a perpetual bond, as we discussed in before, that perpetual bond is the one which doesn't have any maturity. So it is for infinite time period. So but the investor will be getting regularly the interest on that type of bond. So the value of that bond would be, as you can see here, the interest at the end of every period divided by the discount rate, that is the required rate of return by the investor, so which it is for an infinity. So if we add up all the future so if we add up all the present values of all the future interest cash flows, so we can have a formula like this, where t starts from 1, a summation of this I over 1 plus kd whole power t, where t starts from I to infinity. And we can write it like this because this is a form of ordinary annuity. So here kd is the required rate of return, and infinity is the infinite number of periods. And we can reduce it to this formula, that is value of a perpetual bond is equal to interest divided by required rate of return. And a non-zero coupon bond, which the interest rate is 0 here, but the value of the if the bond has a finite life, that is it may be for 10, 15 or 20 years, and with some interest rate on it. So how do we calculate the value of that type of bond? So the value, that is intrinsic value in fact, is the interest rate which is earned over different time periods. And then we have the market value, that is finally at the time of maturity, maturity value. The value for such bond is the interest payments or the interest earnings over different time periods, that is for finite period. And then at the end or at the maturity, that value which is the investor would be receiving, that is the market value. It may be after 10 or 20 years. So we have to get the present value of all those future interest payments and the market value of the bond at the end of that maturity period. So we can summarize it like this. For the interest payments, we can write it separately, and for the maturity value, we can write it separately. So here, it is a case of single sum of amount. So we can calculate it, the present value using table 2, and in this case, it is an annuity form, ordinary annuity, and we can use table 4 to calculate the present value of this portion. So you can see here interest into present value interest factor of an ordinary annuity, and here the market maturity value into present value interest factor with required rate of return and n number of periods. A zero coupon bond where the interest rate is 0, but the bond will be sold at a discount. For example, if the face value of the bond is $1,000, but the value of that bond would be quite less than that. It will depend on the remaining time period, that is how many years are left to the time when it is going to be matured. So we have a zero coupon bond is a bond that pays no interest but sells at a discount from its face value. It provides compensation to investors in the form of price appreciation, because जैसे जैसे उसका मेच्योरिटी की तरफ टाइम कम होता चला जाएगा, उसकी प्राइस जो है मार्केट वैल्यू अप होती चली जाएगी. सो इन्वेस्टर के लिए इसमें इनकम क्या है कि एट द टाइम ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट उसकी जो वैल्यू थी वो आफ्टर सम टाइम पीरियड विल बी इंक्रीजिंग एंड इट विल रीच टू द फेस वैल्यू एट द टाइम ऑफ मेच्योरिटी. So in this case we have only cash flow, that is the maturity value. So we can calculate it using the present value in interest factor, that is we will be using table 2 here, and we can calculate the value of a zero coupon bond. And likewise semi-annual coupon compounding, where the interest they are paid after 6 months. In that case the periods would become double, that is if the maturity period is 10 years but it is a semi-annual compounding bond, so in that case the number of periods would become 20 and the interest rate, which is an annual interest rate, would be divided with 2. So then again the calculation would be same. So you can see here for interest portion we will be using this part, and for the maturity value we will be using this part. And here we will be using table 4, and here we will be using table 2. And now the preferred stock valuation. The preferred stock is a type of stock that promises a fixed dividend but depends at the decision of the board of directors. Normally preferred stock के ऊपर डिविडेंड जो है वो फिक्स होता है, एंड इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द डिसीजन ऑफ द बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर कि उसको किस ईयर में कम भी किया जा सकता है या उसको किसी ईयर में ज्यादा भी किया जा सकता है. इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन द डिसीजंस बाय द बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स, एंड नॉर्मली इट इज सेम ओवर द टाइम पीरियड्स. And preferred stock valuation, it will be almost same as that of perpetual bond. You can see here the dividends over an infinite number of periods, they are same, and we can write it like this. And again it is the same as that of perpetual bond. So you can see here the formula, we can reduce it to this one, that is the dividend, amount of dividend of preferred stock divided by the required rate of the preferred stock. So this will determine the value of a preferred stock. And now the common stock valuation. Common stock, they represent, so common stock, they are the ownership in the firm after the interest payments and after the preferred stock payment. So the remaining assets, they are the they represent the ownership of the common stockholders, and common stockholders would receive dividends when the firm is left with after paying to the interest payments and the preferred stock dividends. So the income after interest and payment of the preferred stock dividend will be divided among the common stockholders, and a portion of it may be kept as a retained earning, and the remaining portion will be divided among the common stockholders, and that is the dividend for the common stockholders. And now to determine the value of a common stock or a share, so now to determine the value of a common stock, we have to keep in mind the future cash flows, that is the future dividends, and the cash flows at the time when the that share is to be sold. So we have two types of cash flow, that is dividends and the maturity of the value. So we have two types of cash flow in this case. We have dividends and the value, that is the sale price at when the stock is sold. So now we have to calculate the value of a common stock. Here we have dividends over a different number of periods for an infinite number of periods, and we can write it like this, where KE is representing the required rate of return for a common stock. So we can write it like this: summation of dividend for time t divided by 1 plus KE whole power t, where t starts from 1 to infinite. And the adjusted dividend valuation model, it represents the when we calculate the value at the end of the and now how to calculate the value when we add the value at the end of. And now what is adjusted dividend valuation model? हमने यहाँ तक पिछली स्लाइड में देखा कि we calculated the present value of all the future dividends, and then at the time of sale of that stock, उसकी जो price होगी, then we determine the present value of that price as well, and that will determine the adjusted present value or adjusted dividend value of a common stock. So here we will determine the present value of the sale price as well at the time when the stock is sold, and then dividend growth pattern assumption. अब इसमें एक और जो इसमें concept है, that is कि डिविडेंड जो है कॉमन स्टॉक के दे ग्रो ओवर टाइम पीरियड. सो उसमें एक तो ये कि रैंडमली जो है डिविडेंड्स दे विल बी पेड ओवर डिफरेंट अमाउंट्स ओवर डिफरेंट टाइम पीरियड्स, एंड देन देयर मे बी अ स्ट्रेटजी ऑफ द फर्म टू इंक्रीज द स्टॉक्स एट सम फिक्स्ड परसेंटेज or to keep the stocks, the dividends at a constant level, and also it may grow in phases. For example, for the first 4 years the dividends will grow at 5%. For the next 5 years the dividends might grow for 3%, and for the left of the period, that is to infinity, it might grow to 10% annually. So for the different phases we calculate the value differently. So in this case, in case of a constant growth model, when the dividends they are growing at constant rate, that is G. So D naught actually is the rate for the previous year, and for the next year, that is after 1 year, we have this much dividend. We can call it also as D1, and this would be D2, that is at the end of second year, and this will be dividend for the infinite time periods. So we can write it like this: when the dividends they are growing at a constant rate, we can reduce the formula to this form, that is value is equal to D1, that is the first year's dividend, divided by KE, that is required rate of return, minus the growth rate of that dividend. And zero growth model, so when the dividends they are fixed for an infinite number of periods, then the dividends would be same for each year. So in this case, in fact, we have G equal to 0, that is there is no growth at all. So you can see here, when G is equal to 0, so we don't need to write that. We can have this equation here, that is value is equal to D1 divided by KE, that is the required rate of return. And growth in different phases, that is for different time periods, the growth rate of dividends is different. So in that case, the valuation can take place like this. That is, for example, in the first n number of periods, the dividends, they grow at G1 rate. And then the time period which starts after n, that is n plus 1 to infinite number of periods, it grows at G2. So we have two different models here. So we can calculate it like this. Okay, at the time we have two different models to determine the present value, but here, as you can see, with the constant growth, that is G2 for infinite number of periods, we have this formula as we determined in our previous slides, and then this will be at the time n, at the time of n, that is n number of periods. So then we bring it back from n to 0, that is the present time. So we determine the present value by using the simple formula, that is the table 2 here. So we apply this as well to determine its present value from nth period to 0 time. And then we have an example to represent this one, that is stock GP, which is growth phase, has an expected growth rate of 16%. So the first growth rate which is being expected is 16% for first 3 years, and then after 3 years, that is from the 4th year, the the dividend growth rate is 8%. So G1 is equal to 16% and G2 is equal to 8% here. Each share of stock just received an annual 3.24 dividend per share, that is D0. Here this will represent the dividend of the time when it was purchased, that is the dividend paid previously when the stock was purchased. The appropriate discount rate is 15%, that is required rate of return is 15%. What is the value of the common stock under this scenario? So we can divide it on a timeline, that is we have from here to this point 16% for 3 years, and then from 4th year onward to infinite number of periods, we have a growth rate of 8%. So we can apply a formula to determine the present value at this point, and then from this point again we determine its present value at 0, that is as t equal to 0, and then we add up the values from here and here to determine the value of the stock with the growth phase. So you can see here we can divide the time periods into two different periods, that is for different growth rates, and then we calculate using different formulas, that is for the second phase we calculate the value of the stock at time when it is at the end of 3rd year. So here the formula would become D4 divided by KE, that is required rate of return, which is 15%, minus the growth rate, which is 8%. So, and then from here we have two values. You can see here V3, that is a single amount, and then we have an annuity, that is our dividends over different number of periods, and we calculate the present value to 0.0, and then we calculate the present value of V3 again at 0.0, and then we add up these two values. So the calculations would be like this. D0 is the dividend which was paid previously, and we calculate D1, that is with a growth rate of 16% for first year, that will be D1 is like this, and then next year we will multiply it with the power 2, that D0 into 1.16 with power 2, या आप इसको इस तरह से भी कर सकते हैं, जो हमने D1 कैलकुलेट किया था 3.76, इसको अगेन हम मल्टीप्लाई कर दें अगर with 1.16, so we will get this amount, and then accordingly we will be getting for the 4 periods, that is D3 up till D3, that is at the end of 3rd year we have a growth rate of 16%, and we calculate the dividend for the 3rd year, and then for the 4th year we have a growth rate of 8%. So now we apply 8% for the 4th year, that we multiply it with 1.08, and we get the 4th year's dividend. And now we will apply the formula, that is the value at V3 at the end of third year will become 5.46, that is the dividend at the fourth year, divided by KE, which is required rate of return 15%, minus the growth rate of the dividend, that is 8%. So we have, and we solve for it, and we get it equal to 78. Now we have four amounts, that is D1, D2, D3 and then V3, that is value for the next phase. अब हमने इसको in all four values को हमने लेके आना है present value पे. So we determine the present value, we apply the present value interest factor table, we use table 2 for 15% with 1 period for dividend 1, and dividend at the end of second year we will use the 2 periods, and then for the third year we will be using the third period, and then we have V3. So we calculated it 78, and then for 78 again we calculate the present value for 3 years with 15% interest rate. So we calculate this amount. So then we add up all these amounts, that will give us the value of a stock with different growth phases. So you can see here we added up all these values and we calculated the present value of V3. Here it is V3, and then we calculated the present value for 3 years using the table 2, and we added up all these values to determine it $61.22. And then how do we calculate the rates of returns or yields? And steps to calculate the rates of return or yield is that, now first of all determine the expected cash flows, and then अब हमने इसमें जो intrinsic value हमने previously जो find out की थी उसको हम equate करेंगे with the market price. मार्केट में उस स्टॉक की क्या प्राइस है. मे बी हमने जो intrinsic value वो find की थी, it may be equal to 1100 for a amount, and then replace the intrinsic value with the market price. अब मार्केट प्राइस वो है जिसके ऊपर स्टॉक जो है वो मार्केट में ट्रेड हो रहा है, और इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू V जिसको हमने प्रीवियसली डिटरमिन किया था, इट मे बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द मार्केट वैल्यू. लेकिन जब हम प्रैक्टिकली इसकी यील्ड कैलकुलेट करेंगे तो हम उसकी मार्केट प्राइस लेंगे. तो अब हम मार्केट प्राइस को V की जगह पर रिप्लेस कर देंगे, एंड देन वी विल डिटरमिन KD, that is required rate of return, that will be the yield of that stock, and solve for the market required rate of return that equates the discounted cash flows to the market price. अब इसमें करना क्या है हमने, instead of writing here V, हम इसको replace कर देंगे market price से. So market price will be there, it will be given for any problem, and then we will solve this part with different required rates of return, जिसके मुताबिक when we get the value of this side equal to P0, that will be our required rate of return. अब हम इसमें different values of required rate of return enter करते जाएंगे, and where we get it equal to the market price, that is in fact our required rate of return. So, and that is the yield to maturity. So let's explain it with an example. J. Miller wants to determine the yield to maturity YTM for an issue of outstanding bonds. At XY Corporation, XY has an issue of 10% annual coupon bonds with 15 years left to maturity. The bond has a current market value of 1,250. Previously, we calculated the intrinsic value and we were given the information of required rate of return and the interest over different time periods. So here the required rate of return will not be given and market price or market value will be given, that is P0. So then we will calculate it for yield to maturity. So you can see here, अब हमारे पास जो formula है to solve this problem is, अब हमारे पास जो formula है that to solve for this problem, that is given here, और हम इसमें जो this cash flow which is the interest amount which is given as 10% on the face value of the bond. So the face value is 1000 and we have 10% as 100. So the interest for this bond is $100 over the time period. And then we will calculate the present value of all the future interest payments using 9% interest rate. हम इसमें 9% interest rate assume करते हैं. Let's try it with it. और इसमें हमारे पास years to maturity हैं 15, that is n is equal to 15. And then at the end the bond has a face value which is 1000. It will be redeemed at the face value or maturity value which is 1000, and then for this amount we will be using table 2 to calculate the present value with 9% of discount rate and 15 number of periods. And then अब हमने करना क्या है, we have to find out the appropriate interest rate जिसके साथ हमारी calculation जो है वो becomes almost equal to this amount, that is 1250, और इसमें हमने initially assume किया है 9%. So when we calculate it for 9%, we find the answer which is equal to $1081.1. So we have to reduce the rate because with this rate हमारे पास जो amount आ रही है from the market value which is less. So if we reduce the denominator, अब हम denominator में जो amount है उसको कैसे reduce कर सकते हैं? We can reduce it by lowering the interest required rate of return, that will determine the yield to maturity. So अब हम इसको try करते हैं with 7%. So when we solve it for 7%, we get it equal to 1272, which is quite higher. So now we calculated 9%. At 9% it was lower than the market price, and then at 7% it is higher than the market price. अब हमारा जो required rate of return है which is yield to maturity lies between these two rates. So अब हम इसको interpolation से हल करेंगे, and I think you are quite familiar using this technique. So we can write it like this: with 7% we got this value, and in fact what we need is the yield to maturity is equal to the market price. So we will solve for the yield to maturity, and at 9% we got this value, and then the difference between these two values and difference between these upper and lower value, and accordingly on the right side as well. And then we take the ratio of these two values and we assume they are equal, and then we solve for it for x, and we calculate it equal to 0.0024. And now when we add 0.0024 in 7%, then we will be able to get yield to maturity. So then yield to maturity would become 0.724. So actually in fact it is 7.24. So this is the rate. At this rate it will be equal to the market price. So this is the required rate of return or the yield to maturity. And determining for the semi-annual coupon bond yield to maturity, it will again be the same thing, and we can use this formula जिसको हमने previously भी use किया था when we used the different frequencies for the compounding periods, and we calculated yield to maturity. And the bond price and yield relationship, अब बॉन्ड की प्राइस जो है उसका यील्ड के साथ क्या रिलेशनशिप है? नाउ लेट्स हैव अ लुक इनटू दैट. द डिस्काउंट बॉन्ड, द मार्केट रिक्वायर्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न एक्सीड्स द कूपन रेट. जब आप किसी बॉन्ड का कूपन रेट जो गिवन रेट होगा उससे मार्केट का रेट अगर ज़्यादा है तो दैट बॉन्ड मस्ट बी सेलिंग एट अ डिस्काउंट. It will not be selling at a face value because the market requires a higher rate, whereas the bond is offering a lower rate. So the market value will definitely be lower in the market than the face value. And the premium bond, where the bond is offering higher coupon rate than the required rate of return in the market. अब इसमें reverse case है कि इसमें जो So this is a reverse case of our previous discount bond. In this case, the coupon rate is more than the required rate of return in the market, and there will be much more demand for this type of bonds, and the market price with the demand will increase. So this is called premium bond. And a par bond, which is where the coupon rate offered is equal to the required rate of return in the market. So then the market value and the face value would be the same thing, and this type of bond will be called as par bond. And how we determine the yield on a preferred stock? That is, we simply determine, we have this formula and we simply determine the required rate of return out of it, and this is the yield for the preferred stock, where we have dividend and we have the market value. And to solve this type of problems, you will be given the dividends for the preferred stock and you will have the market value for the preferred stock, and you simply solve it for the required rate of return, that will be equal to the yield to maturity. And for different types of growth phases in case of common stocks, so we have this formula. For example, in case of dividends with a constant growth model, so we have this formula. So we simply replace V with P naught, which is the market value, and then we will be given the dividends and the growth rate of the dividends. So we solve for KE. So we determine KE in this equation, and that will be yield to maturity in case of common stock. So in this example, you can see here, assume that annual dividend on each share of preferred stock is $10. So the dividend given is $10 and each share of preferred stock is currently trading at $100. What is the yield on preferred stock? Now we have to calculate the yield in this case, which is quite simple, and it will be equal to 10%. That is the dividend being paid and the market price for that preferred stock. So that then the yield is equal to 10% in this case. And now we are going to start the problem solving given at the end of the chapter number 4. So I hope everyone is carrying the book and go to the page 89. And the problem number 1, it states that Gonzalez Electric Company has outstanding a 10% bond issue with a face value of $1,000 per bond and 3 years to maturity. Interest is payable annually. The bonds are privately held by Sureface Fire Insurance Company. Sureface wishes to sell the bonds and is negotiating with another party. It estimates that in current market conditions, the bonds should provide a nominal annual return of 14%. And what price per bond should Sureface be able to realize on the sale? So what we are given here is that the face value of the bond, it is $1,000 and the coupon rate is 10%. It means every year bond is earning $100 per bond, and the required rate of return is 14% by the investor company, and the company is trying to sell it in the market and wants to determine the present market value of the bond. So we are going to determine the present value of the future cash flows and the face value that is at the end of the maturity period. So this is problem number 1 here. And it says that the face value of the bond is 1,000 and 10% is the interest income every year. So at the end of first year, second year and third year, the bond is going to earn 10% interest on it. So the first year it will be earning $100, second year it will be earning $100, and then third year the bond will be earning $100, and the value that it will realize at the time of maturity, which is the face value, that is $1,000. So we have to find out the present value of the bond, or the value of the intrinsic value of the bond at the present, that is at time t equal to 0, when the firm is trying to sell that bond. So what we have to do is, the required rate of return mentioned here is 14%. So we have to determine the present value in this case. So you can see here, we can solve it individually, that we get the present value of $100 after 1 year, and then the present value for 2 years with 14% required rate of return, and then present value for the third year, that is 100 and also $1,000. And also you can see here that it is a case of ordinary annuity if we take the interest earnings here and if you look at the maturity value, that is 1000, that we can calculate the present value using single sum of money. And you can see here the present value, that is equal to 100, that is periodic cash flow, into present value interest factor of an ordinary annuity given the rate 14% for 3 years, plus 1000 into present value interest factor with 14%. And now we look at the table 4 for present value interest factor of an ordinary annuity. So we go to the end of the book and we look into the table 4 for 14%. Under 14% for 3 years, we have a figure of 2.322. So here we have 100 into 2.322 plus 1000 into now we get the present value interest factor from table 2, because this is not an annuity case. So we have under 14% for the third year 0.675. And if you solve for it, we get 232.2 plus 675. This is equal to 0.2 and 7 and 3 10 907.2. So this is the value the SureSafe company should expect if they want to sell the bond at this time. Now we come to problem number 2. It says, what would be the price per bond in problem number 1 if interest payments were made semi-annually? Now we have the situation here is that the interest payment should be made on semi-annual basis. So what you are going to do here is simply double the number of periods and reduce the annual interest rate by half. That is, हमने जो previous part 1 में जो calculations की हैं उसके अंदर जो interest payment हैं that they are now not 100 because 100 is for 1 year. अब उसमें हमने semi-annual payment करनी है, तो हर 6 महीने के बाद जो पेमेंट होगी that will be half of the year. अब अगर एक साल की इंटरेस्ट इनकम है 100, then half year की इंटरेस्ट इनकम होगी $50. So now we have the $50, that is the annual cash receipts over the next 6 periods. जब 3 सालों में सेमी एनुअल पेमेंट जो होंगी वो 6 सेमी एनुअल पेमेंट होंगी. So for 6 annual payments, 6 semi annual payments, we have the regular cash flow equal to $50. Now we calculate the present value of this annuity, that is $50. Now we are going to solve the problem number 2. It says, what would be the price per bond in problem number 1 if interest payments were made semi-annually? So you can see here the price would be, in this case interest earning जो है that is semi-annual, अब वो 100 की बजाय 50 होगी. That is, अगर उसकी इंटरेस्ट एनुअल इंटरेस्ट $100 है तो उसका सेमी एनुअल इंटरेस्ट जो है वो $50 होगा. सो नाउ वी हैव $50 earning for the next 6 periods, and now we can calculate the present value interest factor of an annuity using the required rate of return, जो कि annual था हम उसको भी reduce करेंगे to semi annual. Now we have 14% as required rate of return. We will reduce it by 2 and then we will divide it with 2 to get the semi annual rate, and now the number of periods, it will become 6 instead of 3 because 3 are the number of years, and now we have semi-annual periods, so we have 6 periods. So now this is the multiplier, and we will determine the present value interest factor for 7% for 6 periods, under 7% for 6 periods, plus the value at the time of maturity, which is 1000. It will be the same calculation, present value interest factor for 7% for 6 number of periods, and we will calculate them, and I leave it up to you, so please calculate them and you find the answer. So it should be a little more than the price we determined in our previous example. And now we are going to solve problem number 3. It says Superior Cement Company has an 8% preferred stock issue outstanding, with each share having $100 face value. Currently the yield is 10%. What is the market price per share if interest rate in general should rise so that the required return becomes 12%? What will happen to the market price per share? So in this case, we have the required rate of return, which is equal to 12%. In case of preferred stock, our required rate of return, we denote it as KP, which is 12%. And the dividends are 8% on the outstanding issue, that is 8% of $100, that is the face value of the preferred stock. It is equal to $8. And now we are going to find the present value, that is P naught. It is equal to dividend paid divided by required rate of return. So we have a dividend paid equal to $8 divided by 12%. So we get 8 divided by 0.12. It's equal to 66.67. So this is the value for this preferred stock for which it should be traded. This is the perceived value of the preferred stock. And now let's look at that problem number 4. It says the stock of Health Corporation is currently selling for $20 and is expected to pay $1 dividend at the end of the year. If you bought the stock now and sold it for $23 after receiving the dividend, what rate of return would you earn? So it's very simple. That is, the return in your case would become the dividend income, that is $1 plus the capital gain. You paid $20, but you can sell it for $23, so your capital gain here is $3. And your investment is $20 in this case, so you have a return equal to, if you solve for it, you will get it 20%. So this is problem number 4. And now we come to problem number 5. It says Delphi Products Corporation currently pays a dividend of $2 per share, and this dividend is expected to grow at 15% annual rate for 3 years, and then at 10% rate for the next 3 years, after which it is expected to grow at a 5% rate forever. What value would you place on the stock if an 18% rate of return was required? So we have a phases growth model here, so it's quite simple, like you can see here. This problem number 5, and it says that in the first phase, you can see the dividend in the beginning was paid equal to $2. For the first phase, we can calculate the dividend, that is for the first 3 years, when the dividends they grow by 15%. So the D naught, what the dividend was paid, it was $2, and after that it grows by 15% annually. So for the first year it will become 2 into 1.15. This is 2.3. So first year's dividend is $2.3, and then for the second year it becomes 2.65, and then for the third year it becomes 3.04. So this is phase 1. And then for the phase 2, we have this pattern, that is at the third year the dividend paid is 3.04, and after that it grows by 10% every year. So we have 3.04 and it grows by 10%. We multiply it with 1.10 or 1.1. We get for the first year, that is in fact the fourth year, we have the dividend 3.34, and then for the fifth year we multiply it again with 1.1. We get 3.68. We get 3.68, and then for the sixth year we multiply it again with 1.1 to grow it by 10%. We get 4.05. So this is the second phase. Now after this phase, the stock is expected to grow by 5% forever. Then from the sixth period, for the unlimited number of years, that is to infinity, we have for the sixth year we have the dividend equal to 4.05, and then for the seventh year we grow it by 5%, that is we multiply it with 1.05, we get 4.25. So this is the dividend paid at the end of year 7. So 4.25 is the dividend paid at the end of year 7. So now we have three phases, that is phase 1 for the first 3 years, then phase 2 for the next 3 years, and then phase 3, which is from the 6th year and towards infinity. Now you can see the distribution of dividends, and we can get the present values of all these amounts, and we can add them up, and that will give us the value of that stock at the moment. So you can see here we have dividends given at the end of first year, second year and third year. अब हम इसको 18% के साथ डिस्काउंट करेंगे. You can use the appendix table given at the end, that is you can use the table 2 here, and you determine the present values of the dividends paid at the end of first year, and then at the end of second year, and then at the end of third year. And after that you calculate the present values of the second phase that start from the fourth year, that is at 18% for 4 years, then 18% for 5 years, and then 18% for 6 years. So this is quite simple. आपने simply present value interest factor table use करना है, that is table 2. और हर calculation के लिए आपने 18% के नीचे for the year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 आपने present value interest factor determine करके उसको multiply करना है for these respective dividends. और उसके बाद आपने third phase के लिए we have a formula for this one, that is the value at the 6th year, that will be equal to the dividend paid after 1 year, that is the D7, and divided by required rate of return of that stock minus the growth rate. And what it is 4.25 divided by KE, the required rate of return है 18%, 0.18 minus growth rate है 5%, that is 0.05. And if we solve for it, we get we get a value equal to 32.69, and this is the value at the end of 6th year. अब हमने इसको discount factor using the same required rate of return, that is 18%, इसकी present value calculate करनी है, and we will be using now the table 2, and we will use 18% and for the 6th year, और उसकी present value आप determine करेंगे, and then you will add the present values of phase 1, and then present values of phase 2, and then present values of the third phase, that is, we just calculated it here, and then you add them up and then you will get the present value of this. आप इन तीनों phases की present values को add करेंगे, so that is your required value for that stock. And now let's come to the problem number 6. It's again very simple problem. North Great Timber Company will pay a dividend of $1.5 a share next year. After this, earnings and dividends are expected to grow at 9% annual rate indefinitely, and investors currently require a rate of return of 13%. The company is considering several business strategies and wishes to determine the effect of these strategies on the market price per share of its stock. So there is a scenario given here, and after that the point A says continuing the present strategy will result in the expected growth rate and required rate of return stated above. And in the part B, it says expanding timber holdings and sales will increase the expected dividend growth rate to 11%, but will increase the risk of the company. As a result, the rate of return required by investors will increase to 16%. Because of the increase in the risk, the required rate of return would increase. And then at point C, it says integrating into retail stores will increase the dividend growth rate to 10% and increase the required rate of return to 14%. From the standpoint of market price per share, what strategy is best? अब हमने इन तीनों स्ट्रेटजीज के तहत मार्केट वैल्यू डिटरमिन करनी है, मार्केट प्राइस पर शेयर हमने फाइंड आउट करनी है. सो इट्स वन ऑफ द सिंपलेस्ट प्रॉब्लम्स हियर. दिस इज प्रॉब्लम नंबर 6. So we have the formula for our present price, that is especially for the stock which is growing at a constant rate which is growing at a constant rate forever. So we have the dividends paid for that will be paid after 1 year. It is $1.5, and then presently the firm is having the firm's required rate of return is 13%, and the growth rate of the stock of the dividends is 9%. So we solve for it. We get a price for the stock that is equal to 1.5 divided by 0.04. It's $37.5. And then if the firm continues and if the firm adopts the second strategy that is mentioned at point B, that says expanding timber holdings and sales will increase the expected dividend growth rate to 11%, but will increase the risk of the company, and the required rate of return would also increase to 16%. So in this case, the price would be, the dividend paid is 1.5%. Our dividend to be paid after 1 year is 1.5%, and here the required rate of return goes to 16% minus the growth rate of the dividends is 11%. So we calculate the value, that is 1.5 divided by 0.05. It is $30. So it is $30. And then for the strategy C, the price would be, the dividends are $1.5. Required rate of return goes to 14%, and the growth rate is 10%. So we have 1.5 divided by 0.04. Again $37.5%. you can see here both the strategies, that is strategy A and strategy C, they result in the same market price. So you can see here both the strategies A and C, they result in the same market price, whereas the strategy B, it results in a lesser market price for the stock. And now let's solve the problem number 7. So problem number 7 says a share of preferred stock for the baseball bat company just sold for $100 and carries an 8% annual dividend. So the preferred stock is just sold for $100, that is its present price is $100. And A, what is the yield on this stock? Now assume that this stock has a call price of $110 in 5 years. I'm sorry, for first part. What is the yield on this stock? So we have to calculate the yield on this stock, which is given as 8%. So the A says, what is the yield on this stock? So we have to calculate the yield at this stock. So you can calculate the dividend that would be paid, that is 8% on the face value, that is $100. It is $8, and the required rate of return KP, we have to find it out, which is the yield in this case, and the price is given as $100. So KP is equal to dividend paid divided by the price of that stock. So it is 8 divided by 100, or you can say it is 8%. And now part B says, now assume that this stock has a call price of $110 in 5 years when the company intends to call this issue. Note that the preferred stock in this case should not be treated as a perpetual. It will be bought back in 5 years for $110. What is this preferred stock's yield to call? So we have to calculate the yield to call, which is again a rate. So after 5 years, now we have to calculate all the cash flows, and then we determine the yield to call. That is, for the first year, the dividend which will be paid is equal to, so here you can see the dividend that will be paid over the next 5 years, that is until the time of maturity, they are 8%, and there is no growth mentioned here. So the dividend that will be paid at the end of every year, they are 8 for the first year, then again $8 for the second year, then again $8 for the third year, and then for the fourth year, and then for the fifth year there it is $8 plus the, and now we have to calculate the yield to call, that is the rate of return, जो required rate of return जिस तरह से हम find out करते हैं, that we have to find it out here. अब हमारे पास उसकी present market price given है, that is equal to $100, and इसके बाद हमारे पास 8 years के dividend given है, that is $8 for the first year, $8 for the second year, $8 for the third year, then for the fourth year, and then for the fifth year. But for the fifth year, the cash flow includes $110, which is the call price. So we redeem them back to their present value. अब हमारे पास इसकी हम जो इसको डिस्काउंट करेंगे, दैट इज द कैश फ्लो आफ्टर 1 year. तो इसके लिए हमने जो रेट फाइंड आउट करना है, दैट इज कॉल्ड यील्ड टू कॉल. वी कैलकुलेट यील्ड टू कॉल यूजिंग दिस इक्वेशन हियर, दैट इज हमने रिक्वायर्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न कैलकुलेट करना है, जिस पे हम इसको डिस्काउंट करें तो इट बिकम्स इक्वल टू $100. एंड देन फॉर द थर्ड ईयर वी डिस्काउंट इट यूजिंग द यील्ड टू कॉल, and then for the fourth year, and then for the fifth year. And now you can see here, इसमें if you take 8 for the 5 years, that is the cash flow of $8 for 5 years, so it is a form of an annuity. So we can write it like this: 8 into present value interest factor of an ordinary annuity with yield to call for 5 years plus $110 into present value interest factor with yield to call rate of return and for 5 years. And now we have to find out a rate for which, when we calculate the present value interest factor of an ordinary annuity and then we calculate the present value interest factor for a single sum which is $110, so it should become equal to $100. And now we can solve it, and we can solve it by trial and error. And in today's lecture we revised chapter number 4 and also solved few of the problems given at the end of this chapter. अब ये जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं ये आपने सॉल्व करने हैं, जो रिमेनिंग प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, और जो हमने सॉल्व किए हैं इनकी भी प्रैक्टिस करनी है. और एंड यू कैन ओनली अंडरस्टैंड अ टॉपिक वेरी क्लियरली इफ यू सॉल्व द रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ दैट चैप्टर. Only if you solve the related problems of that topic. With that we conclude our today's lecture and hope to see you inshallah in the next lecture. Till then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.